What does world-class real estate look like to you?
It's about creating relationships, consistent communication.
Estate agency with a great culture, who care for their people, who care for their clients, who care for their customers, without just looking at the number at the end of the commission check.
I think it's about amazing customer service.
It's about people, not property.
This episode is brought to you in partnership with Iceberg Digital.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the World Class Real Estate Podcast. I think we were just trying to work out where we'll be. I think this will be about 345 episodes. But how are you, mate? Have you got over, this will be going out a bit later now, but have you got over Everton's 3-0 victory against Chelsea at the weekend?
Yeah, I got over it very quickly after Sunday's activity in North London. I'm just accepting that we're going to be pretty rubbish, but everyone around us is equally rubbish at the moment as well. You know, I think Liverpool that weekend slipped up. United drew with Forest or someone. United drew with someone else. And obviously Forest tanked Tottenham. So, and then Arsenal lost the cup final. So, you know, it could be worse. It could be worse.
To be fair, by the time this episode goes out, Tottenham will likely be in the relegation zone. And Stephen and Anton will be very, very upset listening to this, no doubt. But anyway.
Football changes very quickly. Like we'll put this out a month down the line. You know, Chelsea could be 10th or we could be 3rd. Like it could be that. And in the same way, Everton could be 10th or potentially 5th. Like it's, you know, you're in that phase now where actually you put 3 or 4 runs of wins together and you'll be in the top 4 like in no time.
I still don't think we're good enough for Europe, to be perfectly honest. I think Everton will just drop and we'll finish about mid-table, which will still be a great season for us. But you are exactly right, it can change so very, very quickly. I was actually thinking to deviate away from football, because I know people don't listen to this podcast to get a football conversation, but sometimes we can't help ourselves.
Not with Kirsty Franks on as well, although she's a massive Leeds fan, to be fair. So they could also be in that Tottenham conversation by that time too. So
yeah, they could. Yeah. Absolutely. I was wondering if there is anybody that has listened to, if this is 345 or 346, whatever it might be. I wonder if there is anybody out there that's listened to every episode. It would be really interesting to speak to someone if they do believe that they've listened to every episode, because that'll be some commitment over 6 years. I think we.
Well, they'd need to come on as a guest,
exactly.
Wouldn't they? They may have been a guest, but come on as a guest, and we'd have to get them something fantastically on brand for the podcast, which, you know, has got to be the phrase of this episode as well, I would think. So, if you have, reach out, because I'm actually on the merch website this week, actually, because we spoke about getting some merch, didn't we? I've been looking at a few different bits and bobs. We looked at some coffee cups, some takeaway coffee cups, looked at some t-shirts as well. So I'm just getting some stuff priced up. So yeah, if you've listened and you want a freebie and you want to come on, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Kirsty Franks on, because I've not met Kirsty before, but now I've had 2 Zooms with her because we spoke to her about women in estate agency, which I'm sure will come up. But obviously, marketing and brand expert at a very high board level as well within the industry.
Yeah, I mean, experience-wise, you know, what she doesn't know is probably not worth knowing about marketing in a estate agency. I think in terms of offering a different outlook to what a classic estate agency owner would look at, which is normally, I think this will work, or I think we should do that. Whereas Kirsty will be very much, look, the data says don't do that, do that. So let's double down on that and let's stop doing that and wasting your money. You know, ultimately from an agency point of view, a marketing agency is based on results. You're paying them to get you results, and the only way you can find out what the results look like is by getting the data. And I think we'll talk about that on today's episode as well. But we'll also, I'm sure, cover a lot of really good, valuable advice for estate agents out there on how to make the most out of your time, because I actually think it's more time than it is budget for a lot of estate agents when it comes to talking about the marketing bucket and what you're putting in it, basically. So yeah, I've wanted to get Kirsty on for a while now. We actually spoke at an ICG event together, not together on stage at the same time, but I think she was on and then I was on, or the other way around, and listening to her presentation and seeing what she knows about marketing and seeing how aligned we are in terms of, you know, the message, the target audience, the client, nurture, that aspect of things. I just think it would be really, really good for our audience to get to grips on that level of what marketing looks like from the outside, when all you're focusing on is marketing results and you're not having to worry about valuations. That's when you're going to become an expert in something, and that's what she's done very, very much so in this industry, which is great to see. So yeah, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a conversation that will reframe the way estate agents think about marketing. So should we get her in?
Let's do it.
If you're an estate agent listening to this, I want you to think about something for a second. Are you and your team busy, or are you actually being productive? Because most agencies right now are drowning in admin, juggling disconnected systems, chasing portal leads, and wondering why profits aren't where they really should be. Iceberg Digital have taken a completely different approach. Instead of selling another CRM, they've built what they call an AI operating system for estate agents, combining prospecting, marketing, CRM, compliance, even websites into one connected ecosystem. The goal? To increase your revenue per employee, because the agencies that win over the next few years won't be the ones working harder, they'll be the ones working smarter, with systems that actually do the heavy lifting. If you want to future-proof your agency instead of just surviving the next market shift, go and book a demo at icebergdigital.co.uk. That's icebergdigital.co.uk.
Kirsty, welcome to the show. Loving the backdrop there. On brand, shall we say? On brand.
I mean, if I can't be on brand, who can I? Thank you for having me, gents.
Thank you very much for joining us. Your top matches the background as well, so that's well rehearsed.
Not my first rodeo.
Well, we'll start as we always do. And I almost forgot to ask this question. I almost dived straight into marketing then. But what does world-class real estate look like to you?
What does world-class real estate look like to me? I guess for me, it's really, we're working in a hyper-competitive market, aren't we? So many different models. I'm sure we'll come on and talk about that shortly as well. But I think for me, it's really knowing who you are, knowing your lane, being really clear on your proposition and what makes you stand out, and then delivering that message relentlessly.
Do you think that's where a lot of agents fall over? That you said deliver that message relentlessly, because we are in that competitive market and people watch what the competitors are doing and maybe deviate one way or another. Do you think people just get distracted by noise and don't focus enough on delivering that message and doing it consistently?
Yeah, I think so. I talk a lot about strategy and planning when it comes to marketing, and I think it's the step that many agents miss. And I understand why. We're all chasing, we just need more valuations, we need to fill the pipeline, we've got to hustle. But then we jump into just doing some marketing, and then it ends up being a little bit feast or famine. So when the pipeline seems a little bit low, we're just chasing the next shiny thing that's going to deliver the next valuation leads. And I think there's a really, really important step up front that is often missed, and that's the thinking and the planning piece. So I come back to what I said in answer to your first question. Spending that time really understanding who you are, truly who you want to target, who your audience is. Because if you say everybody between a 200 grand property and a £2 million property in a 10-mile radius of the branch, then it's going to be a real scattergun approach. Who are you? Who are you targeting? What are the numbers that you're trying to hit? What are the postcodes that you're really going after? What does the market look like in your patch? What's the opportunity? And then creating a strategy and a plan that goes after that ambition. So, and having real clarity around, okay, so what are we going to say? Who are we going to say it to? What marketing channels are we going to use? How often are we going to post? Where are we going to post? What are we going to say? How are we going to measure all of this before jumping into doing the marketing activity? And actually, it sounds like that's going to take a whole load of time. And that's, time that you don't have because we're trying to run busy branches. But actually, it saves time in the long run because it takes the thinking away. Now, there's always going to be the need to be reactive. There's always going to be something that's going on in the local area, something that's going on in the market, some new campaign that you can go out and talk about. But if you've done that planning up front, you can be consistent about your messaging. You can be clear to your audience. You can have that steady drumbeat of ongoing marketing that you've thought through, you've planned out, you've scheduled. Then it frees you up to have more time to do the reactive stuff, have your team out on the ground, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, having those conversations, being in the local community, dialing up the personal brand piece. So yeah, I think, it's really tough out there. You guys know that more than anybody. And I think giving yourself that space to have real clarity of your marketing absolutely will put you on the front foot. And I think, sorry, I go on when you ask me a question. I think that the other thing as well is, until you think that you are saying the same thing until you're blue in the face, it's not landed with your audience. So I think, I see so often run the risk of agents that have said the same thing through a campaign or a message that they've got or a new hook that they've got, and they've maybe said this message for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, and then they're like, oh, that's boring now. We've said that. Let's move on to something else. But actually, that consistency of the same thing, the same message over and over and over again is what lands. It might sound like you're repeating yourself and you're saying the same thing over again, but for your audience, that's what builds trust, that consistency.
Being known for something as an estate agent is so powerful, as long as it's a good thing, because it's one thing that where it is so competitive and it is a bit samey, and the phrase that hits estate agents in the heart in the living room is, well, look, all estate agents do the same, so can you do the fee that the other guys said? That's the phrase that you do a whole hour in a living room with someone, and then at the end they go, well, everyone sort of does the same thing anyway, and you're like, oh, stabbed to the heart. But it's not being known for something is really difficult when it is competitive. When you're known for something, you almost sort of carve out your own market a little bit, because they're getting you in for that reason, right? And that makes business winning much easier.
Also, the point of the valuation is not where you win. So unless you're one of the 3 that gets called out to that valuation in the first place, you've already lost, right? But that decision is being made so much earlier than the point of somebody picking up the phone to go, I want you to come and value my house. Those conversations are happening at home. It might be, a year before, we're thinking this is maybe getting a little bit small for us and it's about time to move on to the next property, or, we're thinking of moving into a new location because we want to be near another school, or those little nudges, those conversations that are happening in family homes, whether that's positive or negative conversations. And those decisions around which agent to call to do the valuation are happening 6, 9, 12 months in advance of that phone call being picked up. So it's how do you make sure that you're front of mind when that decision is made to pick up the phone and invite an agent into your living room? And that, for me, is a big mix of the consistency that I've talked about, but really being known for being the experts in your local patch. So talking about what's happening in your local area, being part of the community, showing the difference that you make, the results that you get, the service that you give, rather than just talking about it, prove it. So that whole piece around brand, it can't just be an as and when and something that falls down the to-do list, because if you're not doing it consistently, you'll be disappointed when you don't get that phone call. And then something I know that you guys are really, really big on as well. I'm a big believer that your company brand attracts the attention, builds that consistency and that trust, and gets that phone call for when the valuation is requested. But a big part of converting that is your personal brand. So if you walk into that living room and that vendor feels like they already know, like, and trust you because you've been on video, you've been talking about the street that they live on. You've talked about the property that you sold above asking price off market 3 doors down 3 months ago. You've got an opinion, you're putting your face out there, you're out on the ground in the street knocking on doors, people know you. Somebody, the hairdresser, recommended you because, have you seen Ian? Have you seen the videos that he's doing? They already know you when you walk in that living room. So you've got the phone call, then you get in there, they know you. That conversion rate's going through the roof at that point.
And it's interesting.
A lot of work, though.
Interesting that you mentioned personal brand as much more than just the video. Obviously, video is a big part of it because it's great for building that know, like, and trust. But the consistency of the way you do things as a brand also has to come around with the consistency of the way that you do things personally.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if one person has a bad experience, then that just ruins all of the videos, all of the good service that you've given clients over the years can be ruined by giving one client a bad service. So the consistency in personal brand is just as important with the consistency in corporate brand, for want of a better word, isn't it?
Yeah, totally agree. So, you guys are taking the mick out of me with my red top and my red background at the start of this call, but it's my brand, right? So I, spend a lot of time working on, yes, my business brand, but my personal brand. And that's been a game changer for me in terms of conversations that I go in and have. People talk to me about fitness that I do. They talk to me about Freddie, my son. They talk to me about, the marketing advice that they've seen me give. And it's no different in estate agency world. It's knowing who you are, what you stand for, and then keep saying it. And also keep showing up, because I think the other thing about brand, whether company brand or personal brand, it should absolutely reflect what's going on in the business and absolutely authentically reflect who you are. Because if you're portraying yourself as something that you're not, then there's an inconsistency there, and that doesn't build trust. And from a company perspective, if you're going out saying, we offer you the best service, you've got the same person from start to finish, we'll go over and above, all of these things, whatever it is that you're saying, but actually you're not delivering that totally erodes trust over time, and you're known for then being inauthentic.
And if an agent's listening to this because they're like, right, we know we need to pivot a little bit on our marketing or our messaging, but they've got the message, they kind of know what they want to be known for. They know their marketplace, fantastically well. They know the type of client they want to attract. What would be the next 2 or 3 things that you see this year are working fantastically well on the scale of the operation that you're working within? Because knowing you, I know you would read the data fantastically well, and you've got some good stats that kind of paint the picture of what direction to go or not to go, as the case may be. But what are the things at the moment for estate agents that you think are really standing out and getting some good results?
The best return on investment marketing channel that we are seeing right now is email marketing. So it is a goldmine in your database, as long as your data is good in your database. So there's a whole load of channels that I would say are non-negotiables right now. So you've got to have strong social media. You've got to keep having new content on your website. I definitely feel you should be doing print prospecting, but not on its own. It's got to be led to a digital journey. So make sure you've got QR codes on there. It takes you to a bespoke landing page on your website. Don't just have a piece of print for a piece of print's sake. But in your database, there is gold. And I speak to so many agents that are not continuously engaging their database. So things like newsletters, monthly newsletters are great, but segment them. Don't send the same thing for sales and for lettings. But automated triggers set up within your email database, so at different touch points within your customer journey. If somebody has done an instant valuation on your website, there may be a tire kicker at this point, but they're just interested at this point. Nurture them, keep talking to them, keep the conversation alive. It will come back. Somebody that bought with you a year ago, 2 years ago, keep that conversation open. So, I can definitely, if anybody wants any advice, reach out to me. I'll give you the answers in terms of triggers and ideas on what you can set up. But the point is, keep sending email communication to your database, but make sure it's relevant to them. So yes, some newsletters are important as long as they're segmented across sales and lettings. But actually the most important email marketing is where you're sending timely communications that are personalized for that audience, and you can set them all up in the background. As long as you've got an email marketing system that will integrate with your CRM system, all of those triggers can be set up and run in the background. But please, 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 if you're doing that, don't just write some ChatGPT content that's the same vanilla stuff that everybody else is writing. Make it sound like you. If you could take the name off it and it could be anybody else, it's not authentically you. So really think about what you're saying. Bring your personality out in your messaging. Make it sound like you are having a conversation, not just sending an email for email's sake. So yeah, I'll bang on all day about email marketing. Everybody should be doing it. It's the cheapest form of marketing because you're nurturing people that already know you and you've already got, rather than constantly trying to buy new eyeballs. There's a whole piece around, what's going to happen around AI search, and do we now need to worry about Google, or do we need to worry about GEO, and how's that going to work? And the premise is very similar. Content is king. So we need to ensure that there's a constant update of new content. So blogs on your website, FAQs on your website. So Google will look for blogs and long-term content. AI search will look for short answers and FAQs, so different types of content. AI search is also going to be scrolling your Google My Business. So you need to look at Google My Business as another social platform in essence. So posting your properties on there, posting your blogs on there, posting your team updates on there. Keep that updated every week. And reviews, AI search in particular, is hot on crawling reviews. So not only do you need to be pushing your customers for feedback and reviews, but respond to them as well. Good, bad, or ugly, respond to them. The beauty is in how you handle your reviews. So, I can go on and talk about all of the different marketing channels. I get asked a lot, does paid still work? Does PPC, does meta advertising still work? The answer is yes, but only if set up correctly and only if measured. It's not a quick fix. So, we've got agents that are running Facebook ad campaigns that are directing any clicks through to a landing page that might be taking them to an instant valuation. It's about being really clear on having a good hook, having good visuals, making sure that you're targeting the right audience in the right way. Who are you targeting? What type of person? In what area? And then don't just send those adverts to your homepage of your website, because you'll lose them. Send them to a dedicated landing page on your website, and then put them through an email nurture journey as well. So it all needs to be connected. It's the challenge is that no marketing channel in isolation is going to turn the dial if you're in a phase of really wanting to grow. It's about how do all of these marketing channels work together in isolation. And it comes back to the planning piece up front. What are you trying to achieve? How many more valuations do you need every month? When you get a valuation, what's your conversion rate? So we know, if you're clear on those numbers, you know how many valuations that you need to get. So to do that, where are you going to spend your budget and your time, but making sure it's all joined up, and crucially that you're measuring everything, because if you're not measuring it, how do you know what success looks like? So as you know, Ian, I am hot on the data, and everything for me, I want it to look great. I want it to sound great. I want it to be creative. I want it to be authentic to every single brand that we work with. But all of our decisions are based on data. If something's not working, we tweak it. If something is working, we double down and spend more money on it because it's getting a return on investment. So it needs to, and when you start doing this kind of marketing activity, it takes 3, 4, 5 months to get into a rhythm with your data. It's not a quick fix. You've got to run something for a while. Turning off your Facebook ads after 3 weeks because they're not performing is impatience. You've got to run them longer and understand the data and what it's telling you. So everything should be measured and then analysed every single week, every single month, every single quarter to see where you're getting good results and where you need to tweak.
So you mentioned the measure. Cindy from Avocado came on and talked
the
about
lovely
exactly
Kirsty.
exactly the same. And I think as estate agents, and I talk from our business, but I'm sure many are in the same boat, that the measuring part of the process is really difficult.
Yeah.
Because traditionally we've asked clients, what made you call us, or who recommended us, or what, a variation of a question to try and find out what it was. And we know there's so many touch points that people find it difficult. So how is, the smaller independent agent supposed to start measuring the marketing activity? Can you give any advice to where we should be looking at the data to analyze it, to actually know the difference between what's working, so you should double down on it, and what you should get rid of?
Yeah. So it is the trickiest part, because I think, most agents that I speak to, you're lucky you've got the wonderful Cindy, who's a marketing director and a thinker as well as an amazing doer. And the challenge is a lot of agents might have a junior marketing resource that is trying to juggle so many hats, trying to do social media, trying to do the local community stuff, events, email marketing, update the website, create all the flyers. And digital and analytics is a specialist skill. So, we want to try and move away from a situation where somebody on the end of a phone is saying to a customer, how did you hear about us? Because it's open, it's not going to be accurate. So how we do it is we add UTM codes, tracking codes in essence, to every single piece of marketing. So every social media post, every email that goes out, every piece of print also has a tracking code on it. And that's all linked back through to the CRM. So you can pull lots of data from Google Analytics, you can pull data from your website, you can have forms on your website. But honestly, this is the trickiest bit. So unless you've got somebody that understands data and analytics and how to set up that tracking, I would definitely ask for some help, because it's not the skill set that everybody's got, and it can be hard to set it up. But as a starter for 10, I'd make sure that anybody can look at their Meta account, so they can look at your Facebook and your Instagram and see how your social media is performing. If you've got email marketing, any email marketing platform will give you data in that as well. Your website, you can get all of that, the data from Google Analytics and for Google My Business as well. But if you really want to understand full end-to-end lead tracking and attribution, and what I mean by that is from every single new business that you've got, cash in the bank, where did that lead come from, and where is the data telling us that that lead came from? That's full attribution, because it tells you the lead came from here, it turned into a valuation, it turned into instruction, it turned into cash in the bank, therefore the return on investment is X for this. It is a specialist area, and I would definitely recommend asking for some help on that if that's something that you truly want to understand your ROI of your marketing spend.
I think also you mentioned about QR codes on print. I think what I've seen over the years, there's two things that I always see as a bit of a stopper for estate agents, particularly owners, is opinions over the data, because they kind of think, I don't like that, or I do like that. And that ends up being the decision maker rather than the factual evidence. But also call to actions, call to actions is so important. You spoke about email marketing. It is free, but it's kind of not free, right? Because you've got the lead in the CRM through doing something. It's now you've got it, and now you're working it for free. But getting the call to action right in a estate agency seems to be something that, I don't know, maybe it's just not a skill set that the industry has fantastically well, because the difference of the call to action, I always say to the Avocado lot, look, if they like what they've just read, or they like what they've just seen, where are they going to go? And that's where a lot of estate agents miss a trick. I think you mentioned about QR codes with print tracking. A lot of people kind of write a letter or do a leaflet, but it's just a statement, or it's just an advert in reality, but with nowhere to go afterwards other than...
I think, a great example on that is, so we're all trying to get the Book of Al, right? Book of Al, Book of Al, Book of Al. So if there is a call to action, it tends to be that on the print that we see. But actually, we can do that differently. So the call to action could be, find out about house prices in your area. It's less, you're not forcing them into, I need you to make a decision right now and book a valuation with us. We're sending them into the next, it's a nudge. We're sending them into the next part of the journey that says, why don't you just find out a little bit more about what's going on in the property market in your area? Then we've got them on the website. Then we can talk to them a little bit more about their property, about what's going on in the market, about house prices. If it's landlords, it could be talking to them about renters' rights, whatever it is. But we've nudged them to the next stage of the journey. And now we've got them on the website. So we've got much more opportunity to be able to talk to them. Then we've got the opportunity to get them to fill in a form at that point. Maybe they want to do an instant valuation. Maybe they just want a conversation. Maybe they will book a valuation at that point. Then we've got their details. Then we can put them into email marketing and we can nurture them. So I think we just got to change the mindset a little bit around call to actions, that one piece of marketing is going to deliver the outcome that you want it to deliver. It needs to be a much slower process, and it's a nudge at each step. So print is a nudge to digital. Once we've got them in a digital, then we nudge them through the next part of the funnel. Oh God, I'm such a marketing person talking about funnels, aren't I? But you know what I mean.
Yeah, it does make a huge difference. I was actually linking it back to fitness, because we were talking about fitness off camera, but it goes full circle and links back to what we were talking about. I was listening to oh God, what is his name? Can't remember. Irish marathon runner on the Spencer Matthews podcast. But he asked him about breaking down his week as a marathon runner, and he was talking about the VO2 max and the zone 2 running, which is a big fad at the moment. And the guy kind of said, it's not going to help you with your marathon in 6 weeks, but what it is going to do is, if you put 2 or 3 hours into your training plan, it's going to help you with your longevity. It's going to help you on the long term. It's going to make you a better marathon runner in 2 years. And I think what we're talking about here with marketing is, if we allocated 10 hours in the diary for the week, you have to, like you said, with planning, understand which is going to hopefully do some knee-jerk triggers this week, get you some results this week, which is the sort of top end of the funnel or the bottom end of the funnel, depending on which way around you're looking at it. And then which is going to build that snowball effect, that long-term growth. I had one of the avocado guys do their video commercial, and I just said, just chuck it on £1 a day, sorry, and just put it out there to that small little audience, which was like 27,000 people, and just never turn it off.
Yeah.
Just leave it, because we can see from the data that for £1, they're going to get 60 people maybe in a day, 40 people in a day. Watch that for longer than 15 seconds, and you compound that over forever, and it's going to get you a really nice result for not a lot of money. So it's almost like going out and you've just done 50 leaflets every morning, but it's a digital leaflet. They've actually watched it, and you can retarget it. Yeah. And they were like, what, for £1? I was like, just do it for £1. Like, put your other marketing budget elsewhere, but it's 30 quid a month and it will do a job. Like, it will do a good result. And it's that long-term sort of element. And I liken marketing to like a running training plan, because it's, what's the long term? You're doing the strength work for injury prevention. You know, you're doing the sort of fundamentals in marketing that's going to hopefully keep the message out there. But some stuff is slow, some stuff is fast, some people is for lead gen, some people is for nurturing current clients. It all has to be planned out and have a bit of strategy behind it. Whereas I think estate agents, it's very easy to just put it into one big bucket.
And like you say, with your training for the marathon, I'm sure there's days where you don't want to show up and you don't want to do that run, but you know that you've got to keep going consistently, come rain or shine.
Yeah, we see it with the market trends, don't we? A lot of people were struggling in February with bankings, not because of the Christmas window. We'd see that this month and next month. It was because of the pre-budget stuff, where people held back because of pre-budget. So everyone suffered in their bankings last month, and we'll see the different impacts of certain things happening. I think a lot of people are struggling with buyers a little bit at the moment, where the share market has changed. We've obviously got the war in Iran, we've got oil prices going on, so there's a lot of things giving buyers a little bit of hindrance at the moment of maybe moving. So we'll probably see that as a knock-on effect in 4 months time or 5 months time. So it's the same with marketing. If you pulled a plug on something, you're going to see the impact on it later on and go, why have we not got this going on? Oh yeah, because we didn't do that for a whole month because Bob was off or whatever it may have been.
But all of these things that happen in the market can be seen as an opportunity if you use them as conversations to reassure your audience. So I think, there's always going to be something going on. There's always going to be something thrown at agents. There's always going to be the next piece of legislation, or the next thing that's going on with banking, or the next thing that's going on out there in the world. But people are always going to need to move. And it's giving your audience and the kind of platform that you've built the reassurance that you've got this, you've seen this is what's going on, this is the reality, this is the data, this is what's happening in this market. Being that trusted advisor, showing up relentlessly with that advice, so they see you as a safe pair of hands. And who do you want to trust with the biggest asset in your world? The person that's the safe pair of hands that you can trust.
A lot of the stuff that we're talking about here is just demonstrating that there is no silver bullet in agency. And I think you've talked about people making the decision about their estate agent and moving house, in fact, over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Everybody has had the phone call from somebody trying to sell them online ads, let's say, that this will deliver this amount of valuations. And we know now that doesn't happen. Nobody wakes, I always say to the team, nobody wakes up today and says, right, I'm going to sell my house. Or, they're very few and far between with that. But is it because of the highs and lows of agency that we get pulled into that, and we do, move away from a marketing strategy, if indeed we have got a marketing strategy at all?
Yeah, I think there's so many highs and lows, aren't there? And it's very seasonal as well. So I think that impacts the, are we going full throttle with marketing or not? But I just think it's tough out there. It's hard being an agent. And we know that across the industry, 90% of marketing in a estate agency is done by somebody where marketing is their side hustle. It's not their main job. Yet the number one problem that estate agents talk about is lead generation, getting those valuation leads in. So that's, those two things don't really marry up, do they? If there's not enough focus on having dedicated resource, whether internally or externally, on your marketing, yet the number one problem is lead generation. So, I just think it's the world of estate agency is a constant hustle. You're up against 8, 9, sometimes 10 competitors just in your local patch. So it's hard to keep your head above the parapet. And the message that I'll talk about all the time, and you'll hear me talk about all the time, is that marketing has to be up there as the number one priority, and it has to be given the attention and the budget and the resource it deserves all year round, regardless of what's going on in the market, what's going on in the season, what's going on with your pipeline. Because if you start thinking about your marketing when you are worried about the pipeline, it's way, way, way too late.
There is the phrase that best known beats best. And so I did a poll on LinkedIn actually asking estate agents a certain. I do think estate agents really, really struggle with this. They really, really struggle with the fact that they believe they've got the best service, they're the best agent in the local marketplace, and that's enough. And some agents, I mean, I've worked and seen and competed against some incredible estate agents, but if their marketing is not fantastic, they will get run over town by the average estate agent with a good marketing function.
Yeah.
Which is why the corporates in a lot of places, they are the big 1, 2, 3 market shares. They've got immature staff in there. Their training is the training plan. They don't have that independent owner going in the living room, but they kick your ass, and that's just because it's easier. When you've got the leads, everything kind of flows downstream, right? I think Daniel Priestley says that's just get the leads, be oversubscribed, and it makes everything much easier. But I do think estate agents have to understand that just because you're good is not enough. You have to be known. You have to be the known agent for something. You can't be known for being the biggest. Be known for something else.
Yeah.
Because there's only one biggest. There's only one cheapest. Most independents that are wanting to be profitable, need to find somewhere in the middle of that. But you've got to be known for something to attract that client, because I don't know, there's on average 1.2 million transactions a year in the UK. The average town's probably got 25 to 30,000 chimney pots. So say that amount of decision makers, but then who in that 25,000 you actually want to attract? Because they're not all moving and you don't need them all. So when you really niche it down, you know, Mike actually is not my business partner is not a marketing guy, but he says whenever he talks to the agents, your message needs to be like uncomfortably niche, like really,
absolutely.
like you're just talking to one person in the whole town.
100% agree with you, and that's the problem. It's a lot of what we see is vanilla and trying to talk to too many people to cast the net too wide, and then you end up being forgettable to everybody.
Yeah. I think it's a good message from today's pod is, yes, you've got to do everything all the time well, but there isn't a silver bullet, but you can be very, very efficient with marketing if you just get the bits that we spoke about right. If there is a good plan, long-term, medium-term, short-term, which buckets are you going into? Can you track it? Are you reviewing it like you would do with your P&L or your KPIs? You know, is a marketing review session booked in monthly, quarterly? And the expertise as well. You know, that's really important, is that you've got that expertise in your corner. If you can't afford to employ someone, you know, like a Cindy or a Kirsty full time, then obviously you go to someone like your agency and you bring someone in to help you with a slice of it. We have a marketing agency that helps with our leads, our paid lead campaigns. You know, we've got a marketing team, but then the paid stuff we have externally, you know, we pay them a retainer and they deliver. And that's because they've got a different level of expertise, mainly around the tracking, to be fair, like you said, that I'm just not technically able to do.
Exactly. And I think, you know, it's the key for anybody running a business. You know, it's how I remind as well. You surround yourself with people that are better in areas than you are. And, you know, if you've got an area that you're struggling with and need some expertise in it, then ask for some help, because there's plenty of it out there.
Let's deviate just now a little bit away from marketing, Kirsty, and let's talk women in estate agency. Obviously, the Not a Conference was recently. I don't think we've had anyone on who's actually been. We've not had a conversation about it. So talk us through what online looks like a very successful event by all accounts.
Well, I think we broke the internet, didn't we? the week after we. So this was our fourth sellout women in estate agency event. We called it very tongue-in-cheek, Not a Conference, because actually the feedback from all of our guests over the last few years has been, it's really not like any other industry event. It's not a conference. So yeah, we just played on it and went with it as our hook for this year's conference. Great marketing, huh? And yeah, listen, it's not like any other day. We had some incredible speakers, both from inside and outside the industry. It's a whole vibe. There's entertainment, but actually the whole theme really of this year was not everybody's always got everything together, and that's okay. You know, we talked a lot about life being messy. We talked a lot about imposter syndrome. We talked a lot about how mistakes that made me, you know, how sometimes one of the best things that can happen to you is you fail and then you learn from that and you figure out how to go forward. And it's a room full of, you know, there's women and men in that room, and it's a room full of just the most incredible community that really rely upon each other and support each other and champion each other, and it's really special to see. And the Facebook group now for women in estate agency, we've got 5,000 women in that group. And I think, you know, people think it's all, you know, soft and emotional, and that we're all just kind of talking about personal issues all the time. There's a lot of that, but there's also a lot of, I'm just about to change my CRM, or can anybody talk to me about their experience with a compliance supplier, or, you know, it's a real mixed bag in there. but it's very, very active in the Facebook group. So I would urge anybody that hasn't joined the Women in Estate Agency Facebook group, female only, in the Facebook group, please do join. We're doing training. We launched our new partnership program at the conference. So, we've got a lot more to do. I think over the last 4 years, we've seen a significant amount of change. We talked at the first conference about the data in terms of how many women were entering the sector and how many women were making it into senior level roles. And it was a stark contrast. And those numbers are definitely changing. We're seeing more women on panels and talking. We're seeing more women find their voice. We're seeing more men join the conversation and say, how do we together make this a more equitable playing field for everybody? So I can see the shift. I hope you can see the shift. The shift is happening. But it's there's still more to do for sure. And we're just, excited about the next stage of WEA, and as always, appreciate you guys' support with it.
Yeah, I think it's been so exciting to see over the last couple of years that really evolve, and I think the buy-in from the industry as well has been really fantastic. I've been to 2 of them myself. I thought they were great, and I think it's just really important that women have that space that they can go to and talk independently from the rest of the industry. We've always said, I've been in it since 2003, it's a bit of a male dominated industry.
Yeah.
I do think that's changing though. I think on the recruitment at, call it grassroots level, but at the recruitment on the earlier phases of people's careers, I think that is a percentage which is improving. It is becoming more appealing to females, and I think that's great to see, because we need that variety and we need that in the industry. Males and females offer different skill sets, different personalities offer different skill sets. And when you bring that all together, you have a better business for it. So, I think it's been great on the awareness. It seems to be something that just continues to grow. And I think we talk about niche clients, but I think the little niche groups, there's the women in estate agency, but I'm sure there's some side groups that come off of that as well.
Yeah.
And the same for guys, there seems to be some real good sort of bonding groups and focus groups around, being a dad, being a parent, those side of things as well. So I think it's important that we do have those little segments that aren't just the one pot. Got some of the self-employed ones, but actually they seem a bit dormant, to be fair. It's more the niche groups that kind of seem to be the ones that really do bring the engagement, which is great.
And I think, everyone's busy and hustling and doing their best to work and run businesses, etc. But we've all still got lives as well. We've all still got stuff going on, and families and health and all of these things. And I think if there's anything that comes from WEA and other groups like that, it's communication and a sense of community. So, nobody should feel on their own. In this industry, we're very, very lucky, even with groups like Agents Together, with the mentoring and various different communities that you can get involved in. You'd be hard pressed to say to somebody, if you're really struggling, there's nowhere to go for help, because I think there is so much help. And I think that's one of the things that makes this industry so special. Yeah, it's cutthroat. Yeah, we're all competing and there's a lot to do and we're all fighting for those leads. But actually, it's a real collaborative, supportive space as well, if you choose to kind of jump into that side of it.
Yeah,
it is now, but that's changed, hasn't it? That's changed a lot in recent years. And talking about the event and the rise of it there, and then the social media thing, I think a lot of the social media stuff happened in COVID, but it's growing and growing. So people that do put the time into these groups and these events deserve a lot of credit for that, because you are exactly right. There is a big collaborative thing going on in the industry now that wasn't there certainly 10 years ago. It just didn't exist. So hopefully that breeds through, because I think when people are putting their own time into these things, they're passionate about the industry. We say it on here every week. The idea is that through these groups or events, we're collectively bringing the standard of the industry up. And I think seeing you said you broke the internet, seeing how much people enjoyed that can only be good for the industry. That can only raise the standard of the industry, in my opinion.
And also, we need to bring more new young blood into the industry. Absolutely. So I hope that they see some of that and go, yeah, I want a piece of that. That looks fun. Let's get involved.
Yeah, I never thought my kids would become estate agents, but my 9-year-old daughter is like 100% convinced that she wants to be an avocado agent. So, yeah, it's nice to see, and I do see a lot of with family and friends. I do see a lot more girls looking to get into estate agency, whereas before it just seemed like something you just wouldn't do.
Would you be happy for her to be in the industry now?
Good
I
question.
don't know.
Sorry, this is your podcast. I can't help myself.
I don't know. I think you can't do any wrong than having 3 or 4 years at an early age in estate agency. If you're 18 and you want to get into an industry, I would say do 2, 3, 4 years of estate agency, and the skills that you learn, the communication skills you learn, the understanding of how fast things can be, how competitive an industry can be, will grow you up in work life a decade for 2 years. And I think that's what I've always said to everyone, male or female. If you've got, like some dads are like, I think my kid needs to go in the army for some discipline. Just go and do estate agency. Go and do estate agency for 2 years.
Same.
He'll find out. Like, she'll find out. So as a grounding, yeah, absolutely. To make a career out of it, does it still suit parents at employment level? I don't think it does, to be honest, not yet. You can't go straight into self-employed without experience, and you probably can't go into full-blown estate agency with a career-minded understanding as a girl. If you wanted to stay employed the whole time, you get too many setbacks along the way of going pregnant, I believe. I still think
we still have a lot more to do.
Exactly that. So
Yeah.
I'd say for grounding, yes. For career, probably I'll tell her to do something else.
Interesting.
But you never know. In 10 years' time, that might change, and I hope it does. And I
Well,
think
we'll keep fighting the good fight, yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're doing with Weir is a step towards that, because I think it has changed a lot in the last 5 years, and hopefully, in the next 2 sets of 5 years, when she starts looking for employment, it's changed that again. So maybe, but no, really helpful marketing part 1, and then really insightful chat on part 2 as well. So thank you for coming on, Kirsty. It's been great. Thank you for being on brand.
Always.
Wouldn't expect any less.
Thanks very much, Kirsty.
Thank you, guys.
Massive thank you once again to Kirsty Franks from Frank Marketing for joining us. We said at the outset this was somebody who really knows marketing specifically for estate agents and at a real high level, and that came across in the advice that she gave. Then no silver bullet, but start with the strategy in mind. How many estate agents don't have a marketing strategy that will have listened to this, that'll be now be thinking, I need to sit down and sort that out. And I think that's one of the key takeaways. Don't just say it, get it in your diary now. Put some time aside and make sure that marketing strategy is done, because estate agents have a massive tendency to flip-flop on the marketing. Kirsty mentioned it. When valuations are low, quick, we need to do this. And we're guilty of it massively. We need to do this, or, we're busy enough this week, so we don't need to concentrate on the email newsletter, or whatever it might be. And I think that was, one of the real lessons that I took out of the conversation, to actually put some time into the strategy and then just do it. It's that famous word again, do it, and do it consistently.
And the strategy, don't be off put by that as well, because there's levels to a marketing strategy. Every agency is different. Every profit margin is different, and everyone's ability is different. But you just got to start. If you're going to compete in a martial arts competition, you're not going to go straight in and fight a black belt.
Yeah.
So start at white belt, and can you build up to this first dan? Can you get the little notch on the belt, and just start there? That's the best strategy, is starting it. And I think if you do that, it can be really simple. It can just be a case of, okay, well, I saw what she said about email marketing, and my agency's been around for 13 years. We've got a good sized database. What's my email strategy that I'm going to implement this year? and how am I going to focus on sellers, buyers, tenants, landlords, and categorize them into 4 different categories, and just once a month send 4 different really advice-led, really valuable emails to those 4 different groups with a really strong call to action at the end that I can track. And if you just start there, well then, well done. You've gone from white belt to 1 Dan. And then can you add social media to it somewhere? You know, one of the guys at Avocado says, never let the story die. So on Instagram, he never lets the story die. He's always got a story post up there. Okay, so never let the story die. You know, on your Instagram, always make sure something's there so that at the top of anyone's feed when they arrive, there you are at the top and they can click and see what you've been up to that day. And then your second Dan, you know, and okay, are you going to get on video? I don't feel comfortable with video yet. Wait till you get your yellow belt. You know, do some other bits until you feel comfortable with video. And maybe that means that the blogs that you're writing for email, you're going to put on your Google My Business, and you're going to put them on your website as FAQs. And all of a sudden, the same content is becoming multi-purposed, and you've got very close to becoming a yellow belt. And that can be the strategy, basically, is you just build with your business rather than going, I must do all of this now and understand AI, and, you know, just build it in, or employ someone to find the level that you should be at as an agency, and they can obviously, you know, take control based on the costs that you've got to spend, really, I would say.
And I think in a world that is becoming very content heavy now with AI and very much cookie cutter approach, you put that's obviously from chat, that's obviously from Claude, whatever it might be. Kirsty's advice about making it authentic is really important as well, because you talked about, you know, 4 different emails. It's dead easy to you know, dictate something into chat, as we've talked about before, and let it spit it out. But just make sure that you are actually changing it a little bit, because we've got all of these tools now that can make us more efficient. Let's make sure it doesn't make us less authentic as well. It's got to be you, as Kirsty talked about, business brand, personal brand. It's got to be authentically you going out there. So don't do the strategy, do the hard work, and then fall down by just having it all ChatGPT'd.
I don't think there's any excuse for chat anymore, because I think when chat came on the scene, everyone would just type into it, could you make me a blog on how to sell your home, the 7 things not to do as a seller in Preston, and the 3 best things to do if you want to get the maximum price for your home. Probably not even that detailed did people type into it, but to just do that is not going to get you the result that you need. And now that you've got voice command built within it, there is no excuse. Any of my AI led articles or content is done while I'm in the car, while I've got the idea, with it on voice command, and I'm telling it what I want it to say. It's typing it for me, and I'm almost like the old days of having like a, you know, a type person next to you that's dictating what you're saying. And then you get an authentic article through AI that is in your style and your theme and your setup, but it's typed by and created by, you know, AI, so that it's polished. Basically, it's the perfect balance. There's no excuse to have chat copy anymore, in my view, and it's off-putting for a lot of people because, as Kirsty said, you want authenticity, and that's the real key behind it.
And you can tell. You can tell when something's just come straight out of chat. It's, you know, like I say, it's happening more and more, and people are going to get tired of it and get tired of it very quickly. Interesting what she said about the Google My Business. I didn't know that. So that's a conversation that I'll be having within our office. It's always been a bit of a funny channel, Google My Business, in my opinion. Google have tried to do it. It's never really had a purpose, but actually, if AI is going to be searching it, then suddenly it becomes very, very important, doesn't it? Because I know you talked about AI searching an article that you did in Estate Agent Today over the weekend. That's just going to be so important for people. People are just going to open chat and ask who's the best estate agent in the area. You've got to be in that conversation.
Google My Business is the David versus Goliath scenario. Every agent that joins, I bang on about it, getting it set up. I do probably as many training sessions on Google My Business as I do socials, because it's so important. And we've got all of the content. It's just putting it on there as well. You don't have to create anything new for Google My Business. You just have to make sure your listings are on there. You have to make sure your articles are on there, and you have to make sure fundamentally it's set up correctly for maps. And if you do that, and one of the key hacks with it on Google My Business is making sure that all of the information is exactly the same as what's on your contact page with the website. Where a lot of people get it wrong is the hours are different, or, you know, it, for me, where I live, if I put, I don't know, Crowthorne, Berkshire and postcode, but then on Google My Business, I haven't put the county. That's little things like that make a big difference on Google My Business. So there's some good hacks on that. There's someone that we can probably get on to talk about that in more detail, actually. A guest that I've got in mind that we can maybe do a session on once.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah. So I think there's a really good chat about marketing, very estate agent specific. And I think it just reiterates the fact that we talk about a lot on this, that the silver bullet isn't out there, but actually if you do a bit each day and make progress, you will get better to where you want to be. So yeah, massive thank you to Kirsty once again for joining us. As you know, we do this because we love our industry. We want to see it improve and get better. If you have enjoyed today's show, please reach out to Ian, Kirsty, or myself. If you have listened to every episode, please absolutely reach out. We'd love to talk to you. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Mark Worrall. He's Ian Macbeth, and we'll see you again next week.